So I will call the meeting to order and call for an election of the chair. Do we have a mover to appoint someone as the chair for today's appeals committee meeting? Don?
Nominate Ted.
I'll second it.
Okay, any issues with that, Ted?
I have no idea why I'm here, but anyway,
Well, we'll get into that, but if you're okay being the chair?
I suppose.
Okay. All in favor? That's carried.
Teach you to come 5 minutes late. What's that? Teach you to sit in the middle chair. Well, I get tripped over it. Okay.
So Ted, I'll turn it over to you, and essentially I'll just maybe do like a little pre-op here, but so we have, you are the Property Standards Committee, but you do sit as the Appeals Committee to hear muzzle order appeals. So we do have a muzzle order appeal submitted. So we'll go through the steps. We'll do, what we do is the hearing, which you can hear from the bylaw enforcement officer. There is a report included from our bylaw enforcement officer, Leonard. Then you can hear from the people appealing, and any other people in attendance that would like to speak can also speak. You're essentially hearing both sides and rendering a decision on the appeal, whether to keep that in place or dismiss the appeal in all or in part. So I'll turn it over to you, Ted. We just need a mover and seconder for confirmation of the agenda, and we'll go through it that way.
Okay. Who's motion to accept the agenda as presented there then? Dale?
Also move.
And second by Don. In favor? Okay. Now, does anybody have pecuniary interest to declare?
That would just be out of you three.
Just out of the three of us?
Yep.
Okay. I'll take that as a no then. Deferral or withdrawal, I assume that.
I did
but
not,
nothing-
we did not receive a referral or a deferral or withdrawal request.
I'll call back. Okay, public, the appeal hearing, are we just going through what's been presented here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And give a chance for the appellants to speak and anyone else in attendance.
Okay, I assume, do I have to go through this? I assume everybody has a copy? Go ahead.
I was just going to speak that the bylaw department has put a report in front of you today.
Yeah.
And Officer Longton and Ms. Foster, our dog catcher, are here today to answer or clarify any questions you
Okay.
may have on that report. And then we usually sit in the background and
Yeah, okay. So I guess we'll assume that what has been presented is our briefing on do you have, Karen, do you have anything to add to the briefing that we've been presented with here?
I didn't get through, did I get to read it all?
guess you didn't get to read the whole thing.
Oh, you didn't get it, okay.
Leonard, why don't you review it?
Well, we,
Just want to review it for them.
On October 12th, we received a call from OPP officer that reported 2 separate dog bites. The OPP officer attended one in Dundalk. Karen Foster and myself attended to the one here in front of us today. We attended the property of the owners of the Mr. Wilson and Ms. Dedlow, sorry. And then we had gone over to see Mr. Crystal, who owned his dog, Petunia, and we did an investigation, which is set forth in front of us today.
there, the briefing here says that, in a nutshell, that the dog succumbed to the, I assume the veterinarian had looked at the dog and it was beyond, we don't have a report from the veterinarian or anything like, the attending vet, have we, okay?
This is actually the autopsy and the dog died on the table.
Okay. Above description. Multiple sharp force puncture wound, injuries to the neck, thorax, and abdomen, continuous to the peritoneal and thoracic cavity, acute subcutaneous and deep muscle bruising, acute, related to deciduous canine teeth.
So that's a dog bite.
Yeah, in layman's terms, the dog bite.
Numerous dog bites.
Pardon me, numerous, okay.
This way. Because it's some up in the chest and some down here.
Go ahead.
I have a question just for clarification. The dog was bitten by, they were accused of biting these. Was that, whose property was that actually on?
Mine.
Petunia's property.
Yeah, on your own property.
Okay, I assume that's quite a bit smaller dog. The-
2.8 kilos.
So 6.5, yeah, so
About
close.
6 pounds.
Yeah, okay.
Did you ask this gentleman, did I?
I'll give you a picture of it if you wish. As soon as my phone boots up, I shut it down for the meeting.
Yeah. What's it?
Just for the record.
Oh, yeah, okay, for the record, you're Mr. Crystal, you're Bruce
Yes,
Crystal?
I am.
Okay. Okay. So a muzzle order was issued for the two dogs. And we're here, I guess, to hear an appeal. Oh, okay, that's.
I don't think you need to look at that one.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, just,
Mhm.
first one shows you size.
Okay, okay, so I guess we could hear the statement, I guess, from the appeal applicants. I take it you, sir, are Mr. Wilson?
Yes, I sure am.
And it's Ms. Biglow?
Bedlow.
Bedlow?
That's right. But my understanding that we were coming here today to approve our dogs were of no threat to anybody else. And I mean, I have letters for that, but we can go through that day and what transpired after that day and everything that goes with it, if you'd like.
Yeah, we,
So that day, I got a call from Christina saying that Bruce was at our front door. And for about a half hour, he screamed at her, letting her know that his dog was dying on the front seat of his car. So at that point, I called back and I said, you know, what's going on here? And she told me. So then my biggest thing was I wanted to hear from Mr. Longton and, sorry,
Karen Foster.
Karen Foster, to see what had transpired here. So I heard that our dogs had went there and attacked his dog. So at that point I said, oh my God, like, what's gone on here? They had their collars on, were they charged? He said they were charged. I do not know what happened. They were charged. So at that point, I was told that the dogs, well, when they're charged, they haven't run through their collars when they've been charged. So I was kind of confused, because they were charged when I got home.
Excuse me, you say they were charged?
They were charged collars, they're electric
Charged
collars.
electric collars,
That's
okay.
right, that's right. But I was told that they can run through it. No, I mean, they're mastiffs, so I was like, okay, well, maybe that's what happened.
Mhm.
So I got home and is trying to figure out our next steps and when I could get a hold of Bruce to kind of apologize to him for what had happened. So by that Friday, I asked Leonard if it was okay if I called Bruce, because I wasn't about to barge and just go to his house or anything like that. And so I called Bruce and I said, well, he said, do you know what that dog was to me? I said, I know, it was a gift from your wife. It was passing away. And he didn't miss a beat. He said, there's 2 things that you can do to get me out of your hair. And I went, okay, well, so what are these things? He said, first of all, my dog. And when he brought up his dog, it was the purchase, it was everything that went with it. It was all the food, every vet bill the dog's ever had. It works out to like $6,000. So, of course, I've looked up the Animal Liability Act, and it certainly doesn't say that we would have to pay all that if that's what happened. And then put all 3 of your dogs down, and I said, well, it was my understanding that there was only 2 dogs there. And he said, no, there's 3. Well, my daughter was homesick that day, and the other dog was in the house, so I don't know how she would be there. The pup, I don't even understand how she was there, because she was in our front room, and my daughter was homesick with her. So, at that point, he said, oh yeah, and you also own Grand Valley Crane. And I said, well, yeah, it's my family business. He said, well, I'm going to be moving, and I'm going to need a 53-foot sea can lifted onto a trailer so I can move. And I said, what, over and above? And he said, well, yes. And I said, okay, well, we'll talk after, I guess. And he proceeded to tell me that, he said, have you ever seen the movie John Wick? And I said, well, yes. And he said, well, let's just say I've been having some pretty dark thoughts lately and haven't been able to sleep because of them. And I'm going, okay. We met then he wanted to meet the next day, my wife. He said my wife was the most inconsiderate person he has ever met. So I said, let's meet, no problem, down the road. So I recorded the whole thing. Well, he told us about what we're going to have to do and what we're going to have to pay him, and the crane bill, all on top of it, and then proceeded to tell me that our dogs attacked 11 chickens next door to him. And I said, well, he contacted us. Christina said, well, he contacted us and said it was 1 chicken, and we were surprised at that, and he said that he was the one, Bruce was the one that had told him that they did it. And I said, okay, well, I guess, okay, no problem. So, by the end of the conversation, it was, well, there's 3 chickens for sure. And I went, well, there's farmers' dogs running all around there. There's neighbors 2 doors up. I have a picture of the neighbor's dog standing in front of his house 2 days after the fact of the matter. A week after his dog got passed away, the neighbor's dog is standing in front of his house. I watched that dog kill numerous chickens in the next door property and bring them onto my property and rip them apart. And he knew it happened, and he warned the neighbors about it. So I'm trying to figure out when my dogs would go up and attack 11 chickens. Meanwhile, Alan said that it was 1 chicken. So This whole time, I have all this stuff together showing them my dogs. They're very friendly dogs, and there's pictures with a Chihuahua standing on my dog's back, showing they're not aggressive towards other animals. They're not aggressive to humans, nor have they ever been aggressive to humans. I've never had to worry about somebody coming up my driveway and them getting bit by my dog. Not ever. There's 3 of them. The only thing they'd ever want is a pet. They want to get pet, and that's it. My biggest thing here today is to prove that they're friendly and they're not aggressive towards anybody. So if you guys would like to see the pictures and read the letters that I have, I would really appreciate it, and take that into account, that these people will stand beside it. These are my next door neighbors that I have letters from, and there's both sides, and there's lots of other people that were willing to write letters for us here to show that they're safe. They've never been aggressive towards a human, never seen them aggressive towards a pet. I'm very, very, very surprised that this would be me. So, would you guys like to see this?
I would also like to see these.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. Just go. Those are the 2 letters right there, okay?
Did you, if I may?
No, I'm just saying, go ahead.
Did you indicate the 2 dogs had electronic collars on them?
Yeah.
So, and are they functional?
Yeah, they're functional collars. They're transmitters,
Yeah.
and they have a base.
And does that keep them on their property, or?
Keeps them about 50, 60 feet away from the house.
Yeah, so and were they working that day?
Yeah, she tested them. There's your,
Are you a breeder of these dogs? Like you have a male and female and a pup?
we had pups, and
Yeah, do you sell them or do you?
we sold a couple, we sold a litter.
Yeah, okay.
That's it.
But,
We're not breeders, they're fixed now.
oh, they're fixed, oh, okay.
There's 2 of them that are fixed. The older ones are fixed. Or no, sorry, the pup and my male are fixed. But since we have a child, I didn't want to be fixing 3 dogs at once. We have enough, there's enough post-surgery to go with that already. So in the next couple of months, the other one will be getting fixed.
And are the dogs,
And this is for the rabies.
the
This
dogs
is for the
muzzled right
rabies.
now?
Sorry?
The dogs muzzled right now?
They're inside. My house locked. And I have,
So Karen, if the dogs have a muzzle order against them, does that mean when they're outside, they have to be tied up?
Contained and muzzled.
So there's electronic collar,
no, that's not how
like
it
a GPS and a muzzle, got to be the same? The bylaw reads to be on a leash, I just wondered.
Just looking up the bylaw at this moment, if it wouldn't.
Actually, the bylaw says that the animals are to have a muzzle, be either leashed or contained in an escape-proof fencing of
Either or,
6
not
feet
all.
or higher.
Yeah, and that's what we have. I'll turn on this, because we do have the fence here.
So I'm still a little bit unsure here, Mr. Chair, I keep jumping in here, but
no, go ahead, like, I didn't want.
you said they had electronic collars, Karen, and you said they were working. And he said that they won't let him off his property. And yet you said that Petunia was killed on her property.
That's why we're kind of
On
confused on
Mr.
what
Crystal's
happened.
property. So to the north of their property. But collars aren't 100%, dogs can run through them. But usually when they run through them, they don't come back through the fence, or, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay, that's something.
If something like a rabbit goes and they were on the run chasing a rabbit, they can run through the fence, because it's a quick shock. Coming back, they wouldn't be moving
They
as
wouldn't wanna come
fast, so
back.
then they might not come back onto the property.
So guys, here's the 6-foot round that I have up now. There's a beware dog sign behind it. Okay. It's right at the back of
Oh,
the
yeah,
house, so
okay,
they can
yeah.
go directly into it. If we're gonna take them out, if we're gonna take them out at all, we have collars and we have muzzles. May I look at that, sir? You sure can.
Yeah, see that?
Yeah, sure.
Verify that's what.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I already told you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's mine. Just updates and whatnot up to date. Neutered, the best word for the spaying and neutered.
So the situation that we're kind of in here today, everybody, is fairly awkward for the people involved. It's awkward for us to come into a situation to hear. So I guess I might be a wee bit blunt, but I'll maybe do it now as later. We haven't heard the other gentleman's side of the story, which I think we maybe should hear at this time. Just obviously, the two of them are at this point still speaking to each other in this room, but I'd just like to hear the other side of the story at this time, just to hear if that's all right with the rest.
No, no, that's right.
Unless you have anything else that you want to finish off with.
I'll definitely say that, I mean, we're just confused with what's going on here. So, you know what, no problem. Just if he wants to talk, then if he wants to read my letters, go ahead. Because there's 2 letters from a neighbor on both sides there. They say nothing about him, they just say, please talk about my dogs. So,
Can I read those letters?
Absolutely.
It may take me a couple minutes.
Yeah. Oh, there.
that's in,
There's one, actually, I haven't, actually, and the other one is in the file. I'll let you look at that one.
So while everybody's reading the letters, if you have this muzzle order released, what does that allow the person with the owner of the dogs to do, Karen, different than what's going on now?
Well, I guess my question to the owners would be, how are you going to reinstate that these dogs aren't gonna get off the property?
well, we would still be using the same run that we were using, for sure. And then once spring hits, I'm gonna put up a bigger chain link fence right behind my house. So they won't be off the property again, that's for sure, if they were. But that run it's permanent. I'll just keep it for the winter. We'll be shoveling that for the winter, and then once spring hits, I'll be putting a fence in. I say that's peace of mind for ourselves as well,
For sure.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
So do you have anything to add to this then, Bruce?
Yeah, I have letters again from other neighbors, further up the street. The Wilsons live on the south end of the property. Between myself and the Wilsons is
Sanderson or Mayer?
this gentleman.
Okay.
These people are one further over from them, so they are even further south. So it's these people, Wilson's, and this one. Then my house, and this gentleman. And then there is another family there. I only know them as Glenn and Sandy. They've been there for 4, 5 years. And then this gentleman, which has been on the block for more than 17 years. Okay. In that letter, it basically states that the chickens were killed. He called them on or around the 22nd of September, notifying that I had seen the dogs kill the chickens. If you read through that further carefully, you will find that in the previous week and a half before, 6 others had been killed. and he didn't know whose dogs they were. He thought they were just stray dogs until I explained to him that they were French Mastiffs. And he goes, what do they look like? And I said, they're very large dogs, kind of a tanny color. And he goes, oh, I've seen 3 of them running from there. I have a bit of a walkway that goes from this gentleman's property along the edge of his, because his grass cuts like this, and my property is right here, and his is right there, and there's kind of a walkway, because I walk my dog along that edge in the morning. And the dogs would run down there all the time. And there's numerous chicken parks all over my yard. I've been away from the house an awful lot this summer as I've been traveling, trying to reconnect with some of my family and my friends that I know across Canada. So I've been out quite a bit. During August, I was gone for a couple of weeks. In September, I was gone for a fair amount. July and August, I was gone, or June and July, I was gone for quite a bit, so I did not get to get the habits of these dogs, but I did notice that I could get up in the morning, which was generally around 7, somewhere around 7:45 to 7:30, 8, in that half hour, I could hear the neighbor's chickens squawking. And go over, look out, don't see nothing, but okay, fine, no problem. So they've been at that pretty much, give or take, they've been learning how to hunt. The one time that I did mention to them, which is the 21st, 22nd, I woke up to hearing the chickens squawking like crazy. That was later than I normally was, so I stood in my bedroom, looked out the window, and I could see one dog running this way, another dog running this way, and this is over probably, I'll say 150 feet. And the dogs chased the chicken this way, the dog chased the chicken this way, and they got it and they pulled it apart. This way. That was the end of that chicken. So when Al came home, this gentleman, I told him, you're missing another chicken. And he goes, again? I says, well, I saw what happened. And he goes, okay, fine. I says, could you please talk to these people and get them to restrain their animals? Okay, I just asked him if he would restrain, talk to them, not call the bylaw officer kind of thing, like talk to them first. And in that letter, if you read very carefully, there's a handwritten copy of a text message between Christine and Al, and it basically says that Al talked to them. I don't know how he got hold of them, but they talked, and there was text messages went back and forth, and she basically pleaded, please, 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 I will never let the dogs off the property again, ever.
Is that correct?
Yeah, did you get some pictures of them attacking those chickens, or?
If I need to, I can get Al to come up.
He's got some pictures, does he?
I don't know if he does or not.
So did he see them attack the chicken?
He has seen them running from the dead chickens.
Did he see?
Other dead chickens of his.
Okay.
Not that particular day, because he was at work that particular day.
Okay, can we just, we can have some questions a little later.
Thank you, sir. I tried to be quiet when you were there. Okay, thank you.
Or this is just a question.
Okay, gentlemen, please, if we can just finish up your story here on this.
Okay, on the 12th, I got up in the morning, I took my dog out for a walk around, like I normally do. I came back into the house sometime about 7:15, 7:30, which is normal for me. I was getting some work done in my house by some contractors, so I pulled all the drawers out and did some cleaning up and waited for my coffee to boil. And then everything was set and was ready to go. Opened up the door, let my dog run out, turned back, grabbed my cup of coffee like this, and my dog has a habit of running out on the front deck and stopping on the grass and go, hello, morning, bark, 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 stop, that's it. And then she turns and generally runs off to the right. When she got to the end of the deck, she did her bark, 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 because she barks at the chickens, which are 300 or 400 feet away. I'm on a 10-acre lot, zoned R6. And she barks at the chickens. The chickens are big enough that they chase the dog back, so I didn't pay any attention to it. So she turns, runs around the corner. That's when I heard the squeal. Okay, I don't know if you guys ever step on a dog's paw or tail. They make pretty good squeals. I ran to that because I know that was, and I saw one of the French Mastiffs running around the corner of my house towards the back, shaking my dog rather violently. I ran around the corner of the house, so here's the front, and I ran around to here where I could see to the backyard. There was 3 dogs there. The 2 larger dogs had my puppy between the 2 of them. Were getting ready to pull him apart, the same way they'd been killing the chicken. I screamed at them. They looked at me and dropped her and ran off. The puppy was about 15, 20 feet off. Okay. I picked the dog up, ran into the house, ran into the car, ran into the house, picked up my phone, picked up my keys, drove over to the house, and yes, I was very agitated. She came to the door, and I asked her, I told her that her dog had killed my puppy. I mean, it was not moving at all. Didn't move, didn't look like it was breathing, nothing. I said, can you come look at my puppy? It's in the car right there. Look at what your dog's done. At that point, the 3 dogs came back. I did not notice any collars on them, but I will say I was in a very agitated state, and I may have missed them. I'm not going to say yes or no. My general experience is, as with Karen says, once a dog gets past that electronic fence, it does not come back. Because it knows that it's chasing the fence, it gets there, it gets shocked, it does not come back.
But you did see them come back.
Oh, I watched them come back. I can pick out the exact route from that, from Jesse's, which is one of these letters here. I can pick out the exact route. I can't see it was the male or the female came first, but the puppy was the last one. It was definitely the last one. Okay. When she said that she would not come out to the car and look, I kind of looked at it and went, I was kind of in shock and disbelief because she said her child was sick. And I'm going, okay, if your child is so sick and you can't walk from your car, from the house to the car, which is like 50, 60 feet away, something's wrong. The child should be in the hospital. That's what I thought. And I went, okay, fine, I'm not getting anywhere. And I turned around and I drove to Mount Forest just to make sure that and it was no more than 5 minutes. Okay. Went home, came back, went to that thing. I was back home by 9 o'clock. I was home by 9 o'clock. Not on the way home, at home. Because the contractors came in and started putting my countertop in because they were supposed to have been there at 8:30. They were there at 8:30. They put the countertop in because I had left the whole house wide open. So they just came in and started doing their job like they're supposed to. I came home at 9 o'clock. So from 7:30, when the attack happened, to the time I got back, I'm half an hour outside. I'm pretty sure all of you guys know where the MTO picnic site is on Highway 89.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, I went from there basically to Mount Forest. I will say I was exceeding the speed limit on the way down. Okay? Tremendously. When I came back, Mr. Longton and Ms. Karen here came by in the afternoon, and I told them the story. It's in, I believe, one of these things here.
I think it was still morning.
It was still on. It was still morning, see? So it was still morning.
Yes, at 11 a.m. that you were at the,
Which I was informed by the police had called. So there was an episode in Dundalk, and then Mr. Crystal's.
So
So the
they're,
police ended up going to the other one.
they're at my place pretty early in the morning, so there's no way I could have yelled at her for half an hour. Yes, I will sit there and say I was loud. Oh, damn right, so I was loud. I've worked in factories all my life, and to be heard over top of machines, sometimes you develop a particular voice. I have that particular voice that when I use my shop voice, it is very loud. There is no mistaking it. Okay, I'm not going to deny that. The next thing that I knew was Mr. Longton called up on the 14th and asked if they would, he could give my phone number to them for them to talk to me. And I said, why should I? And he goes, they're willing to put the dogs down. It's actually in the notes in his, I don't know if you have a copy of his notes.
that I did not, no, I didn't see that at all.
This is a copy of Mr. Longton's actual notes from that date. I'm sure he will verify it as he's got a copy right in front of him. I double checked with Mr. Longton that yes, these people said that they would put the dogs down before I would give, I would allow him to release my phone number to them. That is how they got my phone number. Rick called up on the 14th, I believe, and asked if he could speak. We met out at the end of the road on the end of his driveway, and we had a short conversation. Basically, I told him that there was a few ways out of this. One, he could buy my house, and I didn't care. I don't care if he finds somebody to buy it or somebody else buys it. I've been trying to move out of there. I'm sorry, but my wife died in April, and I cannot stay in that house. I have problems sleeping. I've had severe things going on because of that. The other one was, as I already believed the dogs were to be euthanized, as Mr. Longton said that the dogs were supposed to be euthanized before, that they had agreed to euthanize them before I gave him my phone number. I figured that euthanizing the dogs was there. I wanted the payment, what it cost for me to purchase that dog, or should I say my wife's cost to purchase that dog. The medical bills that I had involved in it to that point, and $4 a day for the food, which came out to $6,998.35 at that point. I had to wait for the last bill to come in, which my bill was gone for 2 weeks on vacation, so that took a while for it to show up. Then I also told him I would like to speak with Christina and show her pictures. And I went back the next morning and I had a conversation with him. I have text messages here that show that basically that we agreed to go out to the street and talk. So I reiterated the things that were there, and I will sit there and say I was harsh on Christina. I'm not gonna deny it. I was harsh on her because I consider that she is the person that was in charge of those dogs when I was not there. And Rick was not there. So she is the person that's in charge. It doesn't matter that she is sick, her kids are sick, she is pregnant, nothing. She's the person responsible. She has to delegate to somebody when those dogs or animals on her property, she is the person responsible for it when Rick is not there. She abdicates that when Rick is there. I'm not going to deny that, and I don't think he will deny that either. But she is the one that is responsible for those animals. Whatever they do, however they do it, why they do it. Okay. I have a text message on my phone, which I believe was the agreement that I had with Mr. Wilson, and I texted it to Leonard and carried on through there. The next day, after I spoke with these people on the street, Christina never did stick around for the whole conversation. I believe she had a baby monitor and she had to go back in the house and look after her child. I didn't worry about it, but she's never seen what her dogs have done to my puppy. I don't think anybody wants to see that. When she left, Rick started pushing back on this put the dogs down thing, pay for the cost that that dog had cost me to this point. And yes, I asked him for him to lift a sea can.
It's about a $3,000 job.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I figured that would be fair compensation for the mental anguish that I had gone through, and the fact that the 7,000, I'm just gonna say 7,000, would be reasonable because that's what the dog cost me to that point. I have all the medical bills. The only one I do not have is for the food, which is $4 a day at 252 days. And the actual purchase price, because it was something that I never really thought that I'd have to have, because once I got the chip inserted into her, it was not something I considered that was needed. I will say I called up on the 14th of the month, or the 21st of the month, I believe it is. Leonard, was it the 21st I called you?
Yes.
I called up expecting an update, because at this point I figured the dogs should have been euthanized. And I figured that he was going to give them the papers saying that it was like $7,000 for the cost of what it took me to run the, to keep that dog. Well, I was very emotional that day because I was expecting that, yes, the dogs are down, and yes, that he was going to do it. He'd informed me that he has no legal standing in this. I did not understand that at the time, and being as emotional as I was pretty upset. We had about a half an hour conversation in there. At one point, when I wanted to clarify something, I'm sorry, but he kept talking over me on the phone. I finally had to yell at him to shut up. I have a, okay, and I asked him about certain things, and I sat there and says, so, basically, it is my fault that I did not call the first time that I saw the dogs on my property. Second, I should have called on another instance, which is to do with one Daisy. Okay.
Big.
Yep.
Okay.
It's an R6 property, not allowed. By law, I can pull that up, it's somewhere. I didn't care about that. The pig did probably cost me the sale of my house because a realtor came in one time and the pig's on the front deck. I mean, person was there for a second trip through the house, so they were actually serious about it. So I figured that pig cost me my sale. So I explained that to Leonard, and sorry, I have to do this every so often. I just, it's what the therapist told me. Needless to say, I asked him about that. He's told me that I can only go back through DOLA, which is small claims court, to collect any monies off of them, which kind of upset me because I didn't realize that's how it worked in this particular jurisdiction. So I told him to shut up, and I asked him about one. I should have called about the pig. Yes. I should have called about the first time I saw them dogs on my property. Yes. I should have called every time that I saw chicken feathers on my property, which were scattered across my property numerous days, not just one or two. And he goes, yes, and I says, so basically it's my fault for not calling the bylaw officer. He goes, somewhat. I had called him to find out where the investigation stood, and he said that he had only investigated as far as he was going to, and he investigated my property and the Wilson's property and no others, because I said, you didn't check with any of the others on the street? He said, no. Well, I'm going to sit there and say, sorry, right there. It says that he did check with at least one other property. He should have checked the other properties all the way down. The only property that did not have somebody on it at that exact moment was Jesse's here somewhere on one of them notes. That's it. You could have talked to everybody up and down the street. They would have told him, yes, I've seen them dogs running. I have seen the pigs up and down the street. This one here, Mark Sims, he has two fairly large dogs, and over the years they have gotten out maybe half a dozen times, and I'm talking.
Get a picture of them from your house.
Which dogs?
Is that the Simpsons?
Please.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And they have gotten out. Generally, when they are out, the kids are nearby. Generally, when they're out, the kids are nearby. They do get out and once in a while. The biggest thing that I've ever seen them do is knock over the garbage cans. I have been told that, yes, they have gotten to the chickens, but when Al told them that they'd gotten to the chickens, they were restricted from moving off the deck other than when the kids were around.
You said they were large dogs, like what dogs are they? Any particular breed?
Husky.
They're one's a cross between a husky and something else. I'm going to sit there and say between the two of them, if I said between 40 and 80 pounds, would that be accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of them is somewhere between, one is smaller than the other, so somewhere between 40 and 80 pounds. 80 pounds would be on the extreme up end, 40 would be on the other. So if I said 60 pounds each, it'd be accurate. Okay. There are two other dogs on the street. One is called Nugget, which belongs to Randy Sandy, that weighs in about 10 pounds. And the other one is a Dalmatian that belongs to their daughter, which is over once in a while. And they have a brown and white dog. It's a cross between a number of things. And it weighs in between 30 and 40 pounds. That's all the dogs on the street, outside of these ones. I know most of the dogs in the neighborhood because I've been there for minimum 15 years. I do know that the farmer across the street, Stuart, has had dogs. But if you yell at the dogs, go home, they go home. They never approach more than 70 feet away from me. They're just kind of curious looking at what I'm walking down the street with. Around the corner, there is another dog. It's a larger brown and white one, and it comes over, I'll say about once every week to visit the Sims. It doesn't come much further than that. So I do know the dogs in my neighborhood. None of them are scary. The last scary dogs in the neighborhood moved out in April, which is when this person moved in. So they've only been there for a while. I did notice that they put up a rather large and strong fence around their back deck, as they have a child there. Other than that, the property is basically it, the way they bought it. Okay. I will say Mr. Wilson was very accommodating when it came to getting the pig. I hadn't seen it after I told him that the pig had torn up my garden, torn up my front lawn, torn up some of the other people's. Okay. Before that, it was just contact Christina, as she was the only one home. I happened to come over one time when Rick was coming in the driveway, and I caught him there. He came over and he did do it. Unfortunately, I don't think those electronic collars were on the dogs, because if they had been or had charged, the dogs would not have returned to the property. Because dogs, like I say, like she says, once they go through, they're chasing a rabbit or something, fine. But if they're on the way back, they don't come back, because it's like, I'm just walking home. And that's what they got, so they stay away. Okay,
Any questions?
anybody?
You got any questions for me, sir?
I have one, I guess. Leonard, in your notes, you said that Christina was wanting the dog euthanized, and Rick did not. Was that what I
That was
heard?
based on initial investigation that when I went and spoke to Miss Bedlow, she had stated that if it was their dogs, that, you know, the two would be euthanized. She had stated that she had spoke to her husband Rick, and that he did not want the dogs euthanized. But they had to discuss it further when he got home from work that day.
But
And as the story didn't match up after, and he had come and talked to us, we
Mhm.
decided we were not euthanizing them, because we
Okay.
did not know for sure.
it
Like
also
with this
says,
story, the one dog was not out, it was in the house with my daughter. The puppy that he claims was there was not there. And when I opened the door, my dogs were there. Joey was probably around back, but they were there, and the collars were charged, because I checked them that morning before I let them out.
Oh, and our neighbor,
100%.
our neighbor Chad listened to him scream at Christina for about a half hour, because he messaged me, listened to the whole thing, because he works afternoons. So it wasn't 5 minutes.
Sorry, timeline doesn't fit. Could have been half an hour.
okay, it also says in the notes here that so Richard doesn't want the dog euthanized, but will follow the muzzle order.
We
Yes.
have been following the muzzle
We've
order.
been following the muzzle order,
Okay.
as I proved to you guys.
I don't know, you guys, the details of a muzzle order, like, the dog, does that mean they have to be kept in a kennel or muzzled at all times? Go ahead.
Yes.
Please.
If I could just read Section 8 of the Southgate
Oh,
bylaw.
yeah, it's,
8.3, every owner, processor, or harbor of a dangerous dog. I could read the definition of a dangerous dog, but if you would
Go ahead.
honor me that it fits that
Mhm,
definition.
right.
Shall at all times while the dog is on the premises owned or controlled by such person, either kept the dog securely confined, either indoors or in enclosed pen or other structural capable of preventing entry by any children, adequate construction to prevent the dog from escaping, or keep the dog muzzled to prevent it from biting another animal or human, and is either on a leash or under control of a responsible person or secure chain preventing it from leaving the property. So that is what a muzzle order is. It does not have to be on the dog at all times,
No,
just when it's not within the home or a cage.
But our decision here today is to deliberate on the muzzle.
or the muzzle order itself.
This injurious affection or these damages or whatnot, we're not.
That's not our,
That's not your department. I
No.
found that out from
No.
through Wellington.
That's what I was gonna say, it's interesting to hear it, but,
I figured this
So-
would be an easy way out for all of us.
in fact, the, replacing your electric fence with a chain link fence would be in compliance with the muzzle order, would it not?
It would, yes. It would. But
Do you have an issue with that?
I don't have an issue with that, no. I don't have an issue with that, but we're out by our ponds a lot and whatnot. And we have a pond out front, and when our dogs are out with us, they don't go anywhere, ever. Well, they should- they don't go anywhere.
So it'd be nice to not
So it'd be
have them
nice to
wear a
not
muzzle.
have a muzzle order on, so we just take them to the pond. with
Say
a
what?
muzzle.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify, the muzzle order, if it's still in effect, if you do not remove it today, would require any time they take that dog off their property to have a muzzle on it.
Is that off their property or outside of the confined space / house?
If it's not within the chain link fence or in the home, then it would require a muzzle order, okay? As long as it's restricted in another method to keep it from interacting with humans or anything else, then it doesn't require it, but if it was to be outside of the fence or onto the street, even when they're walking, it would require a muzzle, according to our muzzle order.
Can I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
I can tell you this, if my dog was danger to any human, I would want to put a muzzle on it or put it down. And I do not. I've never had a dog be aggressive to a human in my life. I've never owned an animal that was aggressive towards another animal or a human in my life. And that's the honest truth, and I have lots of friends and acquaintances that could back that up. So as far as taking them in the public, I don't want to have to put a muzzle on my dog in the public because they're not going to bite anybody. They would never bite anybody. And I would want that peace of mind if I had a dog that was going to be mean in public. I'd want that peace of mind to make sure they weren't going to bite somebody in public. So yes, if I had a dog that was mean, I would definitely have a muzzle on them in public because I don't need that liability, right? So I just want to have the freedom of not having a muzzle on my dog. That's all I'm looking for. For dogs.
On my closing end of it, I think he's had his close. I'll say the dogs have proven that they are killers. They have killed chickens, they've taught themselves how to hunt, and they have killed mine as well. So it's not just my property, it's other people's property. So if they are allowed to wander around, they have to have that chain link fence that they can wander around in. I have no problems with the dogs not having the muzzle on inside the chain link fence, but if they are not inside that chain link fence, they have to have that muzzle because they have proven that they kill.
Okay.
Where's the proof?
Okay, please, will, anybody have anything to add? Don, Dale, anybody? Karen? Nothing? So what do we, yes, go ahead.
so I'm just trying to, I read this the other day and I read it again. Definition of a dangerous dog, obviously if it bites a human, that's automatic. And if it kills domestic animals, but where does it say if it gets in a fight with another dog? Is it considered dangerous?
Under definitions on the screen behind you, Don, dangerous dog, there's A, B, and C. C, a dog which has bitten or injured a domestic animal without provocation or without sufficient provocation in the opinion of the person enforcing this bylaw.
Is it a dog a domestic animal?
We consider a dog a domestic animal. Yes,
Yeah,
it's
I
domesticated.
would
that-
interpret that as livestock or some other,
Well, it would be livestock,
Be
but we would
both.
also consider it to be.
but I'm not
Yeah.
taking sides here, but I've had lots of dogs over my lifetime and they always fight with each other. Get into a fight, scrap, two dogs, I'm just trying to, is that definition taken to the extent, would that be considered dangerous if dogs fight?
Well, I don't know that it was a fight when you get talking a 6-pound dog to a 90-pound dog.
Yeah. So what the definition is, because of the size difference.
So just explain to me again, if you have build a chain link fence, and you mentioned that you have a 10-acre property,
That's right.
and you have a pond on that 10-acre property.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
So if you have a chain link fence, it won't be around where your pond is. You would,
No, I put it out behind the house because my septic is out front, so I'm not gonna pound chain link fence through it, right?
so you would still have your dogs then, that they would be taken and could be where the pond is without the muzzle order and no
Yeah,
chain
you
link
can't,
fence.
yeah, because they can't swim with the muscle on, right? It's probably pretty dangerous.
Okay.
Okay, well, if anybody has anything to add, I guess what deliberation, what do we do? Just we
So do we,
dismiss people and? figure-
that's what I was gonna ask, do we ask the people that are in the three of us can talk, or how do we come to?
Yeah, so we can move into closed session to deliberate if that's what the committee wishes, or they can, it depends. We'd have to pass a motion to move into closed. Others don't, they deliberate in open session. That's what I do recommend, just
Oh,
so
okay.
everything's.
All right. What do you think?
I would like to hear some more discussion with the bylaw enforcement and Karen here, but I'm a little uncomfortable in presence of donors.
Mhm.
I can make a motion that we go to a closed session and the. us three-
Mr. Crystal, you can't move
No.
motions. That's up to the committee
I'm sorry.
members.
You know,
Didn't understand.
so you want to move into closed session?
I've got to think about the right wording here, to justify that motion.
Well, I think you did, because the individuals are here.
For confidential information, yeah.
Right?
Lindsay, help me out with.
Yeah, I'm just seeing what exemption it would fit under.
So, well, she's looking that up, just so I get this in my mind. So far, the two neighbors, the three big dogs, the owner has agreed that you will build a fence.
I put in that.
If you're really need this responsibility of,
Well,
and you're, and Mr. Chris,
Yes.
right? You'll accept that if that
If he
happens.
puts in a chain link fence according to what the bylaws specify, yes. So then, but if the dogs are outside of that fence,
As a matter of compensation, it will be.
I have, unfortunately, I have to go through DOLA, the Dog Owners Liability Act, which is small claims court, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which is something that this council, I'm now been informed, cannot do anything about.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought originally that could, but I have to go through that.
So, and we have authority to render a decision based on the information we've got here, so.
yeah, but the issue is that it's an appeal to the muzzle order, where in fact building the fence is compliance with it.
We could make a
Am I
Could
right?
modify the order, huh?
Yes, go ahead.
So my understanding of today is you have pretty well three choices. One, to withhold or to, I can't think of it. Uphold the muzzle order, so we would continue to need muzzle. Two, to quash it, or three, alter it.
Oh,
So you are allowed to alter it and make certain restrictions or
okay.
changes to it to what you feel.
Okay.
Where we are not, we have to follow the bylaw.
Okay.
That is all.
If I
Yes, go
may,
ahead.
I wonder if maybe if the committee would leave it in place until the fence is up and then remove it. I don't know if that would be agreeable, just in the time being. I don't
Oh,
know,
I think that would be understood. Maybe
yeah.
if that's a condition for the alteration of the, it would be understood that the muzzle order remains in effect until that's completed.
Mhm.
Fine. Would that be right? Yeah. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Once that fence is up, the dog's inside the fence, no muzzle. Dogs outside the fence, muzzle.
Well, this is what we're working on.
Just clarifying.
See,
So is that, I guess, when past Mr. Wilson then, is that your understanding then too, that if inside the fence, muzzle, outside the fence, no
We're
muzzle?
hoping to quash the,
Muzzle order.
Yeah.
I want the muzzle order gone. The fence is up for my peace of mind. That's what I want. The fence is up for my peace of mind for not trusting an electric collar if they ran through the collar. So that's why I want the fence. And the fence will be. There's a run there now. So they don't get outside the run at any time unless they have a collar
right now.
and their muzzle on. So, that's what I'm looking to, but.
So I'll ask another question. You said previously then, when they're on your property, if they go swimming in the pond, and they can't have a muzzle on when they're swimming. So what does that situation propose then? What could possibly come from that situation if they aren't under control and have no collar on them? What holds them on the property?
Oh, they
They don't-
stay on the property,
don't
they
leave
stay
it.
with us.
They would never leave it standing.
Well, actually, the dog could swim with a muzzle on.
I don't
They're
know.
always with the kids, like, they're, yeah.
That's true.
If my dogs are
Like
kids'
muzzle.
dogs, like they play with my 8-year-old and my baby, my dogs.
Where do you get the muzzle for such a big dog?
I had to go to, there is an the Orangeville pet store that's beside,
PetSmart.
it's not PetSmart, there was another pet one.
We put the run right up to the back door, so they really haven't had to wear the
I had to
muzzle.
get muzzles for my dogs and I had to order them from Australia.
No, they have large dog muzzles where I went. It was the one right beside the 2-for-1 pizza in Orangeville. That's the one I went into. There's a pet store there. They had it.
Pet
It might
Value.
be Pet Value, I think. So, they're a large breed muzzle.
They don't wear them very well.
No, I don't feel very good. They are a large breed muzzle.
So it sounds like you're not particularly interested in the modification of the muzzle letter. You want it completely gone, not meeting halfway or
Well,
anything.
Right.
I mean,
If we have to meet halfway.
as my
around.
neighbors said, which is all true, their 12-year-olds have painted my dog's nails before. Like,
Yeah.
they're not a threat. So,
Yeah, we've got 4 different letters from 4 different neighbors, 2 neighbors on one side and 2 neighbors on the other.
yeah.
So I'm not sure
No, I know.
if we've gained
I
much in
understand.
that respect.
I understand. If you guys, yeah.
But he's willing to build a fence.
Build the fence, you know.
You guys put it right. You want me to build the fence first, but I
We
want to be
build
able
the
to take my
fence.
dogs out.
And you keep the dog muzzled till the fence is built. And Mr. Pearson, he seems to be satisfied with that.
If you want some muzzle on my dogs at any time,
For the time being.
outside of the fence.
No?
Well, you have an issue, even if he puts the fence up, you want them muzzled if they come outside the fence?
Inside the fence, no muzzle, outside the fence, muzzle.
Yeah, so that's,
Well, I'll accept that. Okay, they originally said they put the dogs down, but I'll accept.
well, nobody's got property that would be unfenced where his pond is. Right?
Just so you're aware, I used to own shepherds. I've had shepherds most of my life. When I go to the parks and lakes, I used to have a leash and I would swim with my dogs. They were on a 15-foot retractable leash and I could sit there and swim with the dogs. If they just wanted to run into the pond or the lake, wherever it was, they were on the leash in the parks, because you're not allowed to take them off anywhere in Algonquin Park. There is no dog runs anywhere in Algonquin Park.
Did you put your shepherd down after it bit the neighbor?
They never bit the neighbor.
Okay, please, you
There were
know,
4 different people to say.
we're a little off topic here.
Is there any way that allows us, without going into closed session, to ask the appellant or the accuser and the accusee if they could leave and let us come up with a decision with getting some more information from the people that are involved with and know the rules? I just think that that would let us have a little bit more freer conversation, and it would also maybe keep some of the emotion, which I understand on both sides, but I think it would be best if we could have that discussion and can they be asked to leave, and then we can maybe come up, maybe not, or maybe will come up with a decision. But I would like to be able to have some information without making the other people feel comfortable and
No, of course.
emotion. And there's emotion involved, and I
would-
understand why.
It would still be recorded, so after the fact, they
That's
could
fine.
go back and listen,
Yeah,
but,
yeah, I have no problem with that.
yeah.
I just
that's
that,
fine.
if that's okay with
Okay.
if that's okay.
Yeah.
full.
Okay, that's great.
I'll leave my card.
So you guys want to keep it?
Yep.
You guys, just give me 2 minutes, I'm sorry.
That's okay,
Yeah,
no
problem.
problem.
I might go then too.
Okay, we'll adjourn for 5 minutes.
Recess.
Recess, excuse me. I don't know. Okay, I'd like to hear a little more from Leonard and Karen over, you have any opinions on this and other than what the facts have been
Well,
presented?
when we
Go ahead,
got,
I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna interject there, sorry, and as officers investigating, their personal opinion does not get involved. They can give you facts, but I would prefer they don't give you a personal
Really
opinion.
don't give us an opinion. Okay,
I have a fact, though.
yes,
When we did arrive there, there was one dog outside. She did say that the other 2 dogs were in the house. We did not see those other 2 dogs in the house.
yeah, so there was one dog outside and
The
we
big-
assumed that the other
big
2 were in the
male
house, but
was
they could have
outside.
been, they could have been in Hopeville, you never know, right? You assume they were inside, okay.
Yeah, it was stated that the,
Pardon? Oh, okay. Sorry, didn't mean to.
If the dog had been equal size, like I've still mixed feelings about defining it as a dangerous dog because it bit another dog. But I know there's a size difference.
If I could, the bylaw, as you know, is a legal document, so if there isn't a definition in the bylaw for something, we usually turn to, it's not Webster's dictionary, it's the other one, sorry, there's 2 that are quite well known. And when you look up the definition of domesticated animal, it states dogs, cats, and livestock. So therefore, we felt if we went in front of a judge for a lawsuit, say, that we did not continue with this, we would not be following our own bylaw.
Yep, I understand that.
There's,
I agree with it, I understand it.
well, the conflicting, and again, neighbors' opinions, but again, we're still tied after 4 opinions. Like, so I don't,
So why can't we let him build his fence and then lift the muzzle order after the fence is built?
I guess.
Maybe we're lucky that Mr. Crystal's house will sell and he'll move away and I don't care.
Yeah. You're not getting reelected anyway, right?
Oh, I'm not even sure I'm getting reappointed, so.
So do we then, is there a Leonard or,
Go ahead, Beth, I'm sorry.
Mr. Longton would like to make a statement of
Okay.
when he presented the muzzle loader to Mr. Wilson.
On the next day, the 13th, I did go to Mr. Wilson's house, and he was at his garage with all 3 dogs. There was no aggression to these dogs. That's one thing to look for. We were hoping to see all 3 dogs the day of the incident. As Karen stated, we did see Joey, who was the male, and
Yeah.
he was the father of the puppy that they have. You try to look for, you know, the behavior of the dog, any aggression. Try to look to see if there was any blood on the dog, which there wasn't. But back to the initial hen delivering the muzzle order to Mr. Wilson, there was no aggression. You know, try to see if the dogs are approachable. If there's any growling, showing of teeth, you know, tail between the legs or anything like that, and there wasn't.
so that's interesting to hear. So then the only thing that, and I kind of brought it up twice, and I'll bring it up again, so, and maybe it has no bearing on it. If the dogs are not as aggressive as maybe it has appears that they have been, which I could understand that might be true. But if we take and lift the muzzle order and they happen to get out and they out of the runway and whatever, and happen to get back in where this pond area or whatever, or get onto neighbor's property, again, if that is the dogs that have got away, where does that put everything back to then, if there is problems down the road when it's just a new case or a new circumstances?
You may charge.
Could we not relook at the muzzle order later on in this spring? I'm sure he's not gonna be out of this pond this winter.
No.
It's more of a summer thing.
You've asked a question, Mr. Pallister, that I think in the back of my mind I know the answer, but I'm trying to make sure. I believe actually if it's a reoccurring offense, which we have a muzzle order on now, so it would be a recurring offense. We've issued the order underneath our bylaw. He's asked for an appeal, so that doesn't remove that the order was put in wrongly. It just means that it's changed. And a recurring offense, I actually, I can't remember whether it's the dogs shall be put down or whether it's in the opinion of the bylaw officer whether they should be put down. But they would definitely go underneath a muzzle order again.
Dolan supersedes that too. Dog Owners Liability Act supersedes that too. It would be up to a judge to decide whether or not, you know, a dog should be euthanized first time, second time.
So we wouldn't be dealing with that the
It
next
would go,
time.
if
It would
you
go to the
appealed
next
that, it
level
would go to
of-
the next, to a court, actually.
If the dog is, I mean, we can lay a charge if the dog is, you know, off the property at large. A complaint does come back that it was over at another neighbor's property and it comes to us, then we can lay a charge for off leash or, you know, off property.
So can that stipulation be put in? What we left here, that if, in a wording or whatever we do here, that if a reoccurring offense occurs, or is that going away out too far and left field by saying something, that if something happens again, that, do we get involved in that? That really, we don't need to come back to sit around this table again. If it happens again, it needs to go a little bit up to more superior people to deal with than us. I don't know, sometimes these things, we maybe think we solve a problem, but they seem to always reoccur. And I'm not saying that will in these circumstances, but I don't think, if that's the case, that it should be at a higher profile than we are.
I'm still not clear on the question, Dale, if we recommended that the order be modified or something, only if the fence is constructed or whatnot. You're saying is there some responsibility on us because we ordered it and an incident occurs after?
Not responsible on us, but if the incident occurs again,
Yeah.
that it doesn't just come back to these circumstances again, it goes to the next level of authority, whichever, whether that's provincial court or what that is.
Well, you would think that the individual, if it occurs again, surely you have enough sense to understand there is a problem to have to deal with.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it occurs again, but it sounds like there's a dispute of whether it occurred the first time.
That was the issue, what
Yeah.
proof did we have that it
So,
was in
you know,
fact
it's one
their
thing to say, okay,
dogs?
put them on probation or whatever you think, but if in fact, and it does sound like he's got, Mr.,
Crystal.
no, Crystal, did say that there was 2 dogs at this place and another couple of dogs down the road and a couple of dogs around the corner. And, it sounded like there's more dogs than people down in that area. And the dispute is whether or not it was these 2 particular dogs that did the damage. And you were saying, Leonard, that you didn't see any evidence of aggression, you didn't see any evidence of they maybe have had a puppy in their teeth in the last hour or something, but there was no indication of that.
No.
Go ahead, Beth.
I just wanted to state here that we acted on this, it was a he said, she said
Yeah,
system. We really had no proof. We had a owner that was making a claim of dogs and which dogs they were. No other witnesses
no.
stepped forward. It was at the rear of a house.
And it's not as though they're the only dogs in the neighborhood. Eh?
So we're maybe pretty fortunate in the circumstances that we're in, that if Mr. Smith and Christine, I think it was.
Wilson.
Mr. Wilson and
Mr.
Christine
Wilson, sorry.
Bedlock.
Yeah, that he's willing to at least put up the fence and do what he's saying he's willing to do if the muzzle order can be lifted. So at least,
I would be in favor of doing that, if he's willing to do that.
But the decision then is, are you lifting it in full now or
No,
lift it once the fence is
when the
up?
fence is up.
oh, fence has to be up,
Okay.
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I say,
Can they go out of the fenced area without the muzzle, or?
Well, basically, if he puts the fence up, we're lifting the muzzle order, so yes, he'd be outside the fence, he'd have the muzzle on. Because the muzzle order would be lifted.
In a contained area, but it stays on if they're not in a contained area.
Well, that's what we're.
That's not how
what
it would
we're-
be if you're lifting
you
the
know,
order.
No, if you lift it,
Not if we lift the muzzle order. Basically, he puts a, we're sort of meeting them halfway, they put the fence up. So the dogs, if they're not home, if they're, if he's at work and she's in the house or something, like that, go ahead, Beth.
I was gonna say, if he puts a fence up, the muzzle order is still into effect because it's the same thing as the muzzle order. He either keeps them in a house, in a run, or in a fenced area. That's the muzzle order.
Yeah,
Other than when they're out in public, they must have a muzzle order on it. So if you're gonna remove the muzzle order once he puts up a fence, you're actually removing the muzzle order
for the entire,
for its entirety.
yeah, because it's already that way now.
Right now, he has to have a muzzle on. That's what,
Yeah, but if he had built a fence and he let his dogs out now, he could take the muzzle off if they're inside the fence.
inside the fence, yes,
Yeah.
but the muzzle order would still be into effect
The muzzle
unless
is
you
still in
remove
effect.
the muzzle.
Yeah.
So when he takes the dog from the fence for a walk down the road, he
Mhm.
would require a muzzle.
Yeah.
If you wanna have it that he builds a fence, lets the dogs in the fence, and he doesn't require the muzzle now to walk the street, you have removed the muzzle order.
Yes.
You may have removed it in 6 months or whenever,
Mhm.
but you have removed
But,
the muzzle order.
but yeah, basically that's the conditions on the removal of the muzzle order, and then the muzzle order would be removed, you know? And, because it sounds like the issue here was that he was away, she was at home in the house, and the dogs were just running loose.
Sounds like the collars weren't working.
Yep.
I don't remember if I seen
Yeah,
collar
and,
no
on
picture
the
here.
and there was
dogs.
a,
I don't-
you know, he did say, the one chap, Mr. Crystal, said that he did see the dogs come back, which, as we said, understand that it's highly unlikely if that electric fence is working. Now, whether it's a case of the fence not working or whether the collars weren't on, who knows, but one way or the other. Yeah.
Just-
So what happens if we make this, sorry,
I just wanna throw in the fact that the collar is not the only part of the electric fence.
Yeah.
If the electric fence was unplugged for some reason,
Yeah, there's
it's
two
not,
parts to it.
it's not working.
Yeah.
Mechanical things fail.
Mhm. But a chain link fence will sit there and do its job without
I
any,
think so.
even when the power's on. So,
so it
So
sounds like
that-
if we say we wish to, maybe build a fence, we'll lift the order, it might be the right way to go, because we're gonna have both parties kinda upset with it.
yeah, so you're doing it right, and what everybody's mad at.
After 6 months after it's revisited.
So I've wrote up a decision or a motion. I can read it if that's kind of, and you
Okay.
tell me if that's what you were thinking. That the committee maintain the order to muzzle a dog on Joey male French Mastiff and Mia female French Mastiff issued by the bylaw enforcement officer on October 13th, 2022, under the Township of Southgate Canine Control Bylaw, until such a time that the appellants erect a chain link fence as promised and provide sufficient evidence of such, and that the committee direct the bylaw enforcement officer to lift the order to muzzle when the fence is erected and evidence of such is received and deemed sufficient by the bylaw enforcement officer.
I'll move that.
Well, we can't, we're not there yet, Don, that's where I would,
Go ahead, Don.
So,
Getting hungry.
is
that's
there-
kind of what I've got from what you're thinking here.
So we have this 10-acre property, is there electric fence or ground things and collars around the whole perimeter of this property?
You can do that,
But
GPS
it,
fencing.
but is there now, Karen?
No,
Like-
I think they've got the cone thing that's just around
The
the
house?
house that the dogs can
Mhm.
So
go.
it's-
Out the back, there's electric fence for horses and such.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
They
okay,
have horses on the property.
okay.
But you can get
But they
those
could put electric
GPS
fence
fencing
around
for
the-
dogs.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of fencing they do have, that, I mean, their electric,
Dale
didn't
Watson's
go into
got his whole
detail
100
to
acres done that
the
way.
entire perimeter.
Dog stays in,
Oh, yeah.
it's expensive.
So the motion,
So if you guys are good with that, we'll, if you're
I
done
would say-
deliberating, we'll call them back in and then it'll go to the appeal decision. I can read it out, you move second and approve. And then do an adjournment, and that would be it. I would advise during the decision that you don't hear any more from either of them
Okay.
if they try.
Okay.
Just, we're past that.
Do you have more to add, Len?
Leonard was bringing up the fact that when the dogs are out front at the pond, they wouldn't be on a muzzle order, and I just stated that no, in 6 months or approximate, when the fence was in, the
Yeah.
muzzle order has been lifted.
Yeah, it's been lifted, yeah,
And,
and, you know, so
Mhm.
I guess
I
we'll
would say
give them
they're
the
not
benefit
to be
of the doubt.
outside unsupervised without the muzzles on.
That's not what would happen though, Karen, it's
No.
lifted.
Yeah.
It would be
It's-
lifted,
It's lifted,
It's either lifted
Yeah.
or, by the sound of it to me, you're either gonna lift it or you're gonna keep it.
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, there doesn't seem to be a medium spot that you can go.
Well, you know, I don't see it like, it's an appeal to lift it, and I'm not, that I know motions tend to get a little high here, but I I'm inclined to think that if they were fenced off, that if they're out in public, they're probably out with the people with them, and would probably not require the muzzle order. Again, we stated earlier that, you know, if it happens again, even though I'm not convinced they got the right suspects in the first place, but you have to, you know, that's my personal judgment. But we could, you know, if there is another incident, you know, then we'd have to go to a higher court of appeal or whatever.
But what's an incident?
Again, I'm not sure, like,
Going off the property.
off the property, well, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if they're off the property, that, whether there's a muzzle order or they're not, if they're off the property without a leash, that is a finable, we have a ticket for that.
Yeah.
And we can issue tickets. Each time we find the dogs off property, we'll issue the property or the dog owners a ticket.
Yeah.
And,
And if it's excessive, then we can go to court too.
Every time I
and
get
if it carries on, if it's 2-3 times, then we do a part 3 ticket and we bring them into court and ask for a larger fine if the
Yeah.
fines we are giving them
Mhm.
isn't enough.
I have no idea, Mr. Chairman, why I own so many dogs.
I don't either.
They're nothing but a pain in the ass.
I just came from a farm with 4 dogs trying to meet me at the door.
So if we're done with deliberation, we can,
Yeah,
if that's what the committee.
that's right, yes.
We'll go get them.
Oh, dear. In the old days, things are always a lot different.
Would have come to my place and looked for you see my dog? No, I haven't seen it. The other couple coming back in?
The other couple?
Yes, they're coming, they're just, with the baby and everything takes a little longer to get
Yeah,
done. I don't know, I was gonna say, is that me?
Nope.
I found them, okay.
Weird fall.
Okay, I guess, do I just have Lindsay read the decision then? Or is it?
Yeah, so we're at the appeal decision point in the agenda.
Okay.
So the motion from the committee is, be it resolved that the committee maintain the order to muzzle a dog on Joey, male French Mastiff, and Mia, female French Mastiff, issued by the bylaw enforcement officer on October 13th, 2022, under the Township of Southgate Canine Control Bylaw number 2022-078, until such a time that the appellants erect a chain link fence as promised and provide sufficient evidence of such, and that the committee direct the bylaw enforcement officer to lift the order to muzzle when the fence is erected and evidence of such is received and deemed sufficient by the bylaw enforcement officer. Mover and second.
Okay, motion by Don Lewis, seconder Gail, and we're all in favor.
That's carried.
Carried.
Just a motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
I'll move, we move.
I'll move, we move.
Move,
Motion
we
by
adjourn.
Dale, second by Don. Adjourn at 11:03.